Hi all, my name is Mark, and over the past few years, I've just been a little guilty making a number of videos about why you might love shooting with vintage lenses. Well, for the sake of balance, I think it's time I make a video about why you might not love shooting with vintage lenses. Number 1, the hunt. These old lenses, they're a bit tricky to find, with the exception of online marketplaces and maybe a few camera stores that have a very old used camera section. Even if you do happen to find some, are those lenses in acceptable condition? Now, to find what you're looking for, or even those gems you don't know about, you're gonna have to go looking for them, hunting for them. And just like the hunt, sometimes you put a lot of work into chasing something down and it just doesn't go your way. Or perhaps it goes your way, but it doesn't meet your expectations. Say, for example, you buy something on eBay and that something has optical imperfections, even though it was listed as excellent, AAA+++++, mint. You find out pretty quick that as a buyer, perhaps your definition of mint isn't the same as that of the seller. So if you don't like the hunt or the thrill of the seek, you might not like shooting with vintage lenses. Number 2,
adapt or die.
If you're using vintage lenses on modern cameras, then the second thing you're gonna have to do once you've got the lens is to adapt it to a camera system. Now, the good news is there are loads of adapter options to bridge that gap. Most of them are super cheap, although some can be quite expensive. It really depends on the lens mount and the camera system you're adapting to. Now, in my experience, mirrorless cameras have been the best camera option when it comes to adapting vintage lenses. DSLR cameras can have infinity focus issues with adapted lenses, and in some cases, that reflexing mirror will hit the back of the adapted lens, and that's not good for business.
That's not gonna be good for anybody.
Plus, it's much harder to monitor focus through an optical viewfinder that's been designed with modern autofocus lenses in mind. Now, old film SLR cameras used a split prism to help the operator find focus, but these features were stripped away from digital SLRs because manual focus lenses were deemed obsolete. Now, mirrorless cameras don't have an articulating mirror to hit the back of the adapted lens. Plus, the EVF, or electronic viewfinder, allows for manual focus options like focus peaking, focus zoom, and even in some cases like the Fujifilm cameras, digital split prism monitoring. Now, overall for me, Sony mirrorless cameras have been the easiest cameras to adapt vintage lenses to. Something about that E-mount and that flange distance, I guess. It's a big reason why I still carry around the A7S II. Adapters for E-mount are also very affordable, and the size and weight of the Sony cameras are just much easier to wield than, say, my S1H for casual use. This is a much bigger and heavier camera, plus not a lot of adapters have Leica mount options, which is why the Sigma EF to L adapter pretty much lives on this camera. So if adapting lenses to your camera is something that's too much of a pain in the ass for you to even bother with, you might not like shooting with vintage lenses. Number 3, manual focus, baby.
Use your hands? That's like a baby's toy.
Now, shooting with vintage lenses is a lot of work. Some people hate a lot of work. They just want to snap a banger wide open at f-nothing, throw a preset on it and post it for likes, never to look at it again. That's totally cool, but in any artful pursuit, it can be as shallow or as deep as you want it to be. Now, modern autofocus on some camera systems these days are fire and forget. They'll track a subject's eye, an animal tail, a bird of a feather, pull the camera out, turn it on, bam, 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 all my shots are in focus, and I did it all with one hand. Again, nothing wrong with that. Manual focus isn't easy. It takes a lot of time and practice to get right, and depending on the smoothness of the focus throw, it may be a terrible experience overall. Just as a nice smooth focus throw can be a pleasant and rewarding experience, a stiff focus throw can make any twist of the wrist a painful reminder of the fact that you dislike manual focus, none of your photos are in focus, and that you're totally wasting your time. If this sounds like you, then you'll most likely not like shooting with vintage lenses. Number 4, optical imperfections. The expression vintage lenses have character is a loaded statement. What exactly is character? In short, it's the unique balance of the pros and cons of a lens. The blanket statement that older lenses might not be as sharp as modern ones, that could be a con. Now, how those images come out because of this, that could be a pro. It's subjective. If a robot were analyzing our images, and you know that they are, a robot would likely disregard any images where certain optical flaws exist, regardless of how it makes us feel. Feeling is the key word here, because lenses might have the most direct impact on how a photo or frame makes us feel. The swirly bokeh delivered from the Helios 42 85mm might be appealing to some, but a point of distaste to others. Now, if you're someone who demands a clean and pristine image, you're probably not going to like shooting with vintage lenses. Number 5, experience. The experience of using vintage lenses really is the sum of all these parts. The work involved, finding lenses, the adapting, the manual focus, the image quality, all this adds up to a photographic experience that will either be positive or negative. Now, if you don't enjoy this overall experience, you're not going to like shooting with vintage lenses. You might like the idea of it because someone on your screen is hyping it up. It's easy to sit here and present a case in a nicely packaged way why you might like this or that, but in reality, your reality, it's just not that cool. Too much work and you don't really get the results you expect. It might have been cooler watching the video than doing the thing the video shows you how to do. Now, I think it's pretty obvious. I like shooting with vintage lenses, so all these things that you might hate about using them are in part why I enjoy it. Anyway, that's it. Top 5 reasons why you might not like shooting with vintage lenses. So I ask you, and don't bullshit me, do you enjoy the overall experience of shooting with vintage lenses? If so, I'd like to know why. Hearing what you guys had to say about it really helps me better understand my own thoughts on the matter. Always appreciate your time. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.